Welcome back to another episode, a very special episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about spoiled cards in the game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
He's Grant Thompson. He's just along for the ride.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm distracted by my son. Sorry about that. But yeah.
That's Ted Bannock. He loves talking about cards.
God help me, I do. I love talking about two things. David, what are those two things I love talking about? You already named one.
Yeah, cards and patrons. Right. So, in this strange and unusual episode where everybody's introducing everybody else and we have things going on that are strange, we still have a rock of consistency, and those are the people who choose to give a little bit of money to the show. We have Daniel, David, Jason, Joseph, Joshua, Justin, Kyle, Lewis, Matt, Mike, Dominic, Phil, Rob, Robert, Russ, and Sean. And so far, we have a Ready Teddy level that is vacant. So we're waiting for our first patron at the Ready Teddy level.
Clearly, the benefit cost is there.
Yes. And so...
But, with everyone's help, we can get a long enough patron list to make David's reading of it very uncomfortable. So that's my goal.
At least I'm reading just first names. If I were to be reading email addresses, that would be a lot of interest. I have an email address on here that's Scruffy Wookie something. So thank you to Scruffy Wookie.
Thank you, Scruffy Wookie.
Right.
The scruffiest Wookie I know.
Right. So he is. So anyways, we're going to be doing a spoiler episode today. And so I think one of the things that we decided as a team here is to spoil all the cards, kind of honor the last adventure pack in the game for now, as the game enters hiatus. As the player cards become known through official means, we wanted to make sure that we spoiled all the cards on a special series here. So we got the spoiler article this week that had 3 of the cards in it. 2 of them are obscured. There's a couple more that we can see the name of, but we don't know what they are.
David, what's the name of the AP again that's spoiled?
Fortress of Nurn.
Fortress of Nurn, thank you.
Right. So the Fortress of Nurn is out there. So this is kind of our way of honoring the game and providing a little bit of I don't know, whatever you want to say, excitement around the cards that are made here. And so far we've done 2. We've done the Spirit version of Aragorn, which is the hero in the pack. We've done the Contract, the Bond of Friendship. And so, Grant, why don't you tell us what this third card is going to be?
Well, it is a neutral 3-cost attachment. It is a title called Thorongil. It's attached to a non-fellowship and a non-Baggins hero you control. Response: after you attach Thorongil to a hero, search your collection for a different non-fellowship or non-Baggins version of that hero and attach it to Thorongil. While Thorongil is in play, attached hero gains the text and resource icon of the attached hero card. If Thorongil leaves play, remove that hero card attached to it from the game.
That's a lot of game text there to explain how this works mechanically.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on.
Basically, you play that on a hero, you get to search your collection for a hero with the same name, and basically use its ability. So, for example,
and its
Aragorn.
Resource icon, right? Aragorn, which is the literary reference here that is going on.
Thorongil was a name Aragorn used in his early life while traveling through Rohan and Gondor. But as Aragorn was spoiled in this pack, and we've already done it, I thought it was an easy reference. You play this on Aragorn, and you get to literally search your collection for leadership, lore, or tactics version of Aragorn, and basically give him the effects of said character. So leadership
And the
arrow-
resource icon. I keep saying that. And the resource icon. So you end up running a you have one hero that does 2 spheres. So I think that's pretty good.
Yes, it's almost like the reverse side of Smeagol and Gollum. Instead of having one card that is an enemy, it's basically 2 heroes in one.
Sure.
Right.
Something
Ted,
else-
what do you think?
Yeah, I'd like to point out too. Grant said he said you can attach another hero, but when he read the card said another version. So based off the wording, you can actually find an ally version of that hero as well, or vice versa. It doesn't specifically say hero.
It does different non-fellowship, non-bagging version of that hero.
Version.
Yes, so you could actually attach an ally to that as well.
Yeah. It doesn't say find a hero.
No, but it does
hero,
say
just...
later on in the text, it says the resource of the attached hero card. So you're attaching a hero to a hero. If you look at that, it says on the second line from the bottom, it says the hero gains the game text and resource icon of the attached hero card.
Okay.
So
maybe that part of it is just worded.
I see what you're doing with Ally Faramir. I already know what you're trying to get to here.
Well, it says version. Like it says attached a and like version implies ally. But you're saying at the bottom of it.
I think that it's implied that you're able to attach. You're only able to look for a hero because it's saying of that hero. I mean, it's
the attached hero card.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's referencing that a hero is attached to this card,
right?
Not an ally version.
Correct. Which is interesting because there's been some. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but there's been some confusion around this card, obviously, because of the mechanics, like what consists of your collection. If you don't own the card, are you still able to attach it? Like if you don't have the AP for Tactics Aragorn, can I still say that I'm attaching Tactics Aragorn to the card?
So you can do anything you can do anything you want. You can
right
dress up like a Cat in the Hat from Dr. Seuss when you play this game. You can do
well, I know, but I mean, it's one of those things that you want to make sure you have the intention of the card, and not, So I believe the intention of the card is to find a hero and put it on another hero.
I do believe so, based off the second wording. So I'm glad we discussed that clarification, because I think the first part of it is not entirely clear. But based off that second part of it reference, I think that does clear it up. And to address your second question, I mean, people do proxy in this game. That's like a whole conversation. Some people want to have extra, like they don't want to buy so many core sets to have extra copies of some of the limited cards.
They don't want to buy 4 copies of the Dead Marshes to have 12 fast hitches.
Yeah, so
I don't know who would have done that at all. But
yeah, I'm sure people are just going to proxy. I would say that yes, the card otherwise should be in your collection to copy, but people are going to proxy, and that's just
it's just the way it's going to work. Yeah,
that's the way it is. Yeah,
right.
So now to address the actual function of the card, it's pretty stellar. I mean, 3 neutral, so you can play it first turn off the bat. And the trick is just finding a good target. Aragorn, as Grant mentioned, is who the card's named after, and he's got the most hero versions available. So he's got the most wide use of this ability. Are there other good targets? Yes, I'd say so.
What'd you say, Grant?
What was it?
Gimli.
Yep. Certainly Gimli. This makes me wonder if Legolas is a good target, and could be, depending on the deck that you're running. I mean, if you're running Spirit Legolas, to give him the ability that Tactics Legolas has, is decent to get the extra progress. The 2 progress when he participates in a kill, especially because you're boosting Spirit Legolas's attack. So there's lots of good targets for this card.
What about Messenger of the King Legolas, Tactics Legolas, and then put Spirit Legolas on it?
Yeah, now you're getting into a whole. Hey, now you're getting into a whole other realm. So,
yeah, I mean, because you can't pull out the. Let's assume that you can't pull out the ally version. I think that's maybe not clear, but let's assume you can't. But you can start with an ally that becomes a hero using Messenger of the King
contract.
So then you can use that to pull out other, the other hero version. So
yep, you
so
can have Tactics Legolas, Messenger of the King ally gain his other hero ability to gain the progress.
Right, or
you could
do Messenger of the King, Legolas ally, and then put the Tactics hero on him too. That way he's putting a progress and drawing a card.
That's
or two
exactly
progress. Yeah.
Would
Okay.
we be able to do the same thing with Sword Theme then?
I would say yes, because they gain the hero type. So once they become a hero, they're eligible for Thorongil. So if you play Ally Spirit Sam and you Sword Thane him, you could then play Thorongil and you're 7 resources in and attachment investments, and then fish out his leadership hero version, and he would gain that ability and icon.
Right. I mean,
so yeah, you're right. Through those 2 cards, there are ways to mix the ally abilities with the
Hero type.
Hero abilities. Good point, guys.
And I think what I like about this card, I'm not trying to get totally off topic. I mean, we were recording this after our initial spoiler episodes where we were recording like 10 or 12 hours right after it was spoiled. So I've had a lot of time to kind of look at this. Plus, Cardboard of the Rings got a chance to spoil this card. So, as I have looked at this, there's a couple of things that I want to make sure that we point out to the people listening. First of all, it's not limit 1 in a deck. So usually sometimes you have limit 1 for cards that are really super powerful. Path of Need comes to mind, some of the side quests. So I think that while it's unique, you can still have 3 in your deck, and so you can still play it in a way. You can still use it as something that you can play for and draw for, and have a deck designed around Thorongil. Like that's the first thing. The second thing is its cost, that it's 3. I think that's, for some reason, that seems under cost. I feel like, a song that gives you the resource icon of something different is worth 1. And then now you're paying 2 more to get a hero ability. So if you're using Aragorn as the example, you're paying 2 to be able to lower your threat by umpteen if you're going to use Laura Aragorn, or you're paying 2 to get a permanent -1 defense if you're using tactics there. This seems like a super cheap card. Now it all comes down to, are there good targets for this card? And we started talking about this, and so I think that, Éowyn is a good target. I think Aragorn is a good target if diverse, because you can play one version of Aragorn, but then you can pull out any of the 3 versions depending on the quest, right? Any of the 3 other ones, depending if it's a location. If you're starting with, let's say, leadership Aragorn, you can pull out tactics Aragorn. If you need attack, you can pull out lore Aragorn. If it's a threat raising scenario, you can pull out spirit Aragorn if it's a location lock situation. So I mean, there's a lot of flexibility with the Aragorns here. Having said all that, and then I'll throw it back to you guys, is that, I don't know how many more good targets there are in the game. Does that, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're playing Aragorn, I think that this is a relatively easy decision, that you try to find room for this. But, what are the other good targets in the game? Éowyn, we talked about Legolas. Okay, now go.
Good.
Now go. Ted?
Yep, I had one right at the top of my mind, and now it's evading me. Boromir. So people that want to make a Gondor, sort of like a swarmy Gondor type deck, you can start play with Tactics Boromir, and then give him the ability to boost the +1 attack boost that Leadership Boromir has, or vice versa. You start with Leadership Boromir, and then you attach this to him, and now he can raise his threat to ready himself. So I think Boromir's another really, really great target. There's some lackluster targets, like Denethor comes to mind.
Glorfindel.
Yeah,
Glorfindel. I think Glorfindel wouldn't be horrible.
You start off with Spirit Glorfindel, and then you get the ability to
heal.
I mean, yes, it's an investment of 3 resources, but you're also getting, if you're dealing with a lot of direct damage, that extra 1 point of health for a resource could come in handy.
Yeah, and Spirit Glorfindel slots into a lot of different decks. I play him with lots of different sphere mixtures, but I think most commonly I play him with other lore heroes. Yeah. So to then give him the lore resource icon, I think would be beneficial. Plus, then it would give you access to Ashfaloth if you have no other means, just by itself.
Yeah. When I look at this, I look at Hobbit Hero. Of course, leave it to me, right? We've already seen me play the Bond of Friendship contract with the 4 standard hobbits, right? Sam, Merry, Frodo, and Pippin. But I look at let's start Spirit Frodo, and then let's bring out Leadership Frodo. That's really good. Let's play. How many times have we said, we can't play Spirit Pippin because, or not Spirit Pippin, Tactics. Spirit. Wait, which one is the good Hobbit Spirit hero? Spirit Pippin.
Spirit Merry,
right?
Spirit Merry allows you to exhaust him to reduce your threat by an enemy's threat, as is revealed from the encounter deck.
Right. So I think that's a good target, putting, and plus it provides resource smoothing. That's the thing that you have to keep in mind, that, you're spending 3 for the ability, plus you get the resource smoothing. And I kept mentioning that at the open when Grant was talking, but I think that, the Hobbit heroes have good potential for this.
They do. And let's go back to Pippin for a second, because now I really want to visit that.
Okay.
I think it would actually be a really fun deck to start with either version of Pippin and then play Thorongil on him, because so the way Spirit Pippin works is you engage an enemy, and then if you control all Hobbit heroes, you can raise your threat by 3 to return that enemy to the staging area, right? And then Lore Pippin...
He could draw a card.
Lore Pippin lets you draw a card when you engage an enemy higher than your threat. So if you play with both those abilities, you engage the enemy to draw the card, and then pay the 3 threat and return them. And if you're playing with Spirit Merry or lots of other cards, hobbits have a lot of ways to reduce their threat. The neutral card Shire Folk to reduce it by 4 is one, and then Spirit Merry's ability is another good pairing. So that could actually be pretty fun. You make a little draw engine. There's something there, but you're right. I think in general the Hobbit targets, Hobbits make pretty good targets. We already mentioned the ally Sam, getting the Leadership Sam's ability. Both Frodo's are good. Able to give the Leadership Frodo the ability to protect himself from death. By converting damage he takes into threat is what Spirit Frodo does.
Right.
Those are all good ones.
Grant, you said Gimli way earlier, but what are you saying now?
Bean is another good target.
Oh, yes. That's good. Now, here's the thing, is which one do you start off with on the board?
Does it really depends on what you're going for?
I know.
If you're going up against a high attacking, like a quest that dishes out a lot of damage straight away, then you're probably going to go Spirit. But if you're dealing with a quest that you can set up on, then go Leadership. There's no reason not to.
Right.
if you're starting off with leadership, you're probably running Steward of Gondor. Therefore, you can pay to pull Thorongil out pretty much straight away, and still have resources left over.
What else? Dine is a great target. I love Spirit Dine, just to let you know. I mean, of course I see the value in Leadership Dine to Purple Dine, but I'm definitely a fan of Spirit Dine in terms of how much fun he is to play. What about some of the other dwarves? Are there any dwarves that have two different hero versions?
I'll touch back on hobbits real quick. Bilbo's not a bad target if you're starting with Tactics Bilbo to pay 3 resources to gain the card draw from Lore Bilbo. That seems okay, or vice versa. Right, you start with Lore Bilbo, and then you give him the ability to up his willpower.
Right.
And actually be a very good quester and do damage. Bilbo, I think, is a great target. So what's interesting too is you gain the full. It says that you gain the full text, right? So
right.
If you look at brand,
that's including
keywords.
That's including keywords. So and traits.
Yes. So if you start with Brand, Son of Bane leadership version, because you're playing a Dale deck, you could then give him the ranged keyword and the ability to ready another character when he makes a ranged attack. That, I think, is pretty good in a Dale deck.
Yeah, and it's an attachment too. So
it's so you play Thorongil.
2 attachments, right?
Yeah, on Brand, Son of Bane to. I always love him when you play like really powerful cards on Leadership, Ransom of Bane. You're like, I'll play Steward of Gondor to draw a card and gain +1 willpower.
Right.
Which is absurd. You're like, it's like, I always have to repeat it. Like, I'll play Steward of Gondor.
Right.
To draw a card and gain +1 willpower.
Right. Forget the resources that it generates, right? Yeah.
Right. Insane amount of resources going to regenerate for the rest of the game.
I guess it's not 2 attachments because you're attaching the hero to Thorongil and then Thorongil attaches. So you're not getting 2 attachments. You're only getting 1 attachment. And this brings me back to some of the other nuance of the card.
If you use a Messenger of the King, you could technically go for Nori Tactics version and then Thorongil him to go for Spirit Nori, and every time you play a dwarf character from your hand, you reduce your threat. Bit of jank, but everybody loves a bit of dwarf jank.
This is the thing about that. That's not really that much jank because it's only really just 1 card, right? Like that's like when you are only playing 1 card. I think jank comes in when you have to play the steward and then go find the greeting to lower your threat because you're not in secrecy, and then play timely aid and hope that Gandalf is I think that's where jank comes in. I think that just having to draw the card, right, Ted, as being the cost of it. I don't think that there's necessarily janky combos. I think that because you're starting Messenger of the King, I think it's just whether they're good or not. So maybe Grant, maybe that was your disguised way of saying, I don't know how good this is, but you could do it.
Quite possibly, because obviously Tactics Nori allows you, after he participates in an attack to destroy an enemy, you put the top card of your discard pile back on the bottom of your deck.
Right, because that was the one that was released in this cycle too, right?
Challenge of the Wainriders, yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously Nori was Overhill and Underhill.
Yep. I'd like to talk about the drawbacks to this card.
Okay. You have to draw it. That's the first one.
First thing is you have to draw it, right? So if your whole strategy is like, I'm going to start with this high threat reduction and Tactics Aragorn, and my strategy is to draw Thorongil to put Lore Aragorn to reduce my threat back to my starting. That could just never happen.
Right. I mean, there are cards that allow you to draw cards, right? So it's an attachment, so you can use Master of the Forge. You can use Heed the Dream. So there are draw cards.
Yes.
There, right?
Yeah.
But that's true for any, there's not anything that's going to specifically fetch Thorongil from your deck. You need to use those
word
old...
of command is the most powerful search that you could probably use.
Sure.
And then you're limited to, again, the type of hero you use or ally or whatever. Like, that's its own thing.
Right. So I'm just saying, like you're right in what you're saying. And so you have to rely on the card draw, card fetching that you would if you wanted to... Any one card to be the linchpin of your deck, right? You'd have to, Heed the Dream is, in my opinion, really good for leadership lore. But anyways, keep going, Ted. I'm.
Yep.
Information, another good one.
Gather information.
Yeah.
Yep. There's another great one. Let's talk a second. So, yep. Okay, great. So I'll just go down this path. I'm just going to say Wind Whipped Rain. Okay.
I hate that card, right?
Wind Whipped Rain is a treachery card from the
We
Hobbit
Must
Saga
Away
box?
Airbreak of Day. I'm playing this with a patron.
Overhill.
Matt.
Yep.
I know.
It's a treachery. When revealed,
first and second scenario. Discard all your attachments.
All non-treasure, non-objective attachments in play.
Yep.
Which is basically just the way that I'd like to point out that this attachment is by no means immune to treacheries and shadows.
Right.
So first turn, you're like, I play Thorongil on Dane, and now he's Super Dane with defense and dwarf boosting. And Dane, you get a big troll, and you block that troll with Dane, and the troll shadow card says
discard an attachment
from
defending character.
And you spent your first 3 resources. That's all you played. You just said I play Thorongil. 3 resources done. Goodbye. Goodbye attachment. Goodbye deck strategy. You have to
reforge it at that point, or
you have to find a way to
Will of the West to redraw it to put it back in the deck.
Yeah, but you can't reforge Thorongil. It doesn't have a sphere. It's neutral.
Oh, good point, Grant.
Oh,
so you can't reforge it.
So you'd have to Will of the West, or you'd have to Master the Forge. No, not Master the Forge. Erebor Hammersmith, or
Erebor Hammersmith fetches the top.
Or draw another copy of it.
Draw another copy of it.
Or Glather Weaver takes the top card and puts it back into your
at least shuffles
deck.
it.
Yeah,
yep.
I mean,
and then you have to go through. So this card will be interesting because it raises the question, like, okay, how many do you play? You know, is it so key to your deck that you need to play 3 because A, you want to draw it, and B, if it goes away, you want to get another copy, or is it more of like it'd be really nice to have this card. Like, do I need this Aragorn to also have this Aragorn's ability? Of course, because all his abilities are awesome.
Right.
But do I need it for my deck to function, or is it just like really great when he gets this added ability?
Now, a couple other rulesy funny things that have happened here is people are talking about how this interacts with Helm of Secrecy. So Helm of Secrecy is one of those was released in Under the Ash Mountains, and that says go find a hero in your collection and replace. It's a neutral 4-cost
neutral event, right?
Right. Okay. And it's this one is limit one per deck, but it says choose a hero you control, discard all the tokens on it, and then select a different hero from your collection with a threat cost less than or equal to the chosen hero, then swap the heroes, and then moving all eligible attachments and damage tokens to the hero from your collection. So, like, people are saying, well, if I Thorongil Aragorn and then have a second copy of Aragorn, and then I use Helm of Secrecy to bring out a different Aragorn, can I then trigger Thorongil again to get a second copy of the same Aragorn out there?
Oh,
and I don't think that works because of Thorongil's, it says just move, or not Thorongil, the Helm of Secrecy just says move the attachment. It doesn't say to reattach it. So you don't trigger Thorongil again. That's how I'm reading it. And plus, I think you're not allowed to have 2 uniques of the same type, because what Thorongil does is takes that hero and turns it into attachment. with the same name as the hero, I guess. I don't know. And so now you have attachment hero tactics tactics Aragorn. So I feel like that goes against what I feel like attaching two of the same heroes onto somebody. I feel like that's against what the intention
Design
of the card was.
Yeah.
You know,
now,
but then I do have a question to ask you guys: is that if I have already triggered Thorongil with, let's say, Aragorn, and then I want to bring out with Helm of Secrecy, Spirit, Spirit Frodo. Can I keep the Aragorn attachment onto Spirit Frodo?
Because it's already been played.
It's already been
right?
played, but then it's not eligible because it's not this. The name isn't the same, right? So
I think it would basically recheck.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Does it recheck and then fall off, or does it just stay there?
I'd say until we get clarification from the designer, Grim rule it so it rechecks when it comes back into play.
Okay. I mean, those are all the interesting things. And besides the your collection thing, now if, let's say I Thorongil tactics Aragorn, for tactics Aragorn, and now my tactics Aragorn just gets discarded because of an event. Now tactics Aragorn is in my discard pile because it was an attachment. Now can I use Helm of Secrecy to bring out tactics Aragorn because it's no longer in my collection, but it's now in my discard pile?
Well, does the hero... Well, Thorongil's in play, attached hero game... Okay, Thorongil leaves play, you remove that hero card attached from the game. So
from the game, but it's still in the game. It's still like... It's not. It doesn't say return it to your collection. It says remove it from the game.
Yeah, remove from the game is its own separate remove from game state.
Right.
So remove from game is not your discard pile.
Correct. But it's also not your collection. So anyways, there's a lot of interesting little nuanced things that I have to... I don't know. My rules lawyer is trying to figure out. But I think it's interesting.
I got one more for you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Throw us on. What if I start the game with Messenger of the King, ally Bjorn?
Okay.
And I Thorongil him. His hero version is immune to player card effects, right? But per a previous ruling, if you have hero Bjorn, if he's dead,
if he's in your discard play or out of play,
right? So under normal rules, he's out of play and his game text is not active.
Right.
So you could play the card Fortune or Fate, which is a 5-cost spirit event that lets you bring a dead hero back to life.
Right.
So if Hero Bjorn is dead, you can resurrect him with Fortune or Fate, or Houses of Healing is the lore card that does the same thing.
And so does the Eagle that does that.
Right. So the question is, can you Thorongil in that circumstance? I feel like the first answer is yes, you can do it. Like initially, yes, because he's out of play, and Bjorn will legally attach to Thorongil. But then Bjorn he gains your own ally gains the text immune to player card effects. So I think then would everything fall off, including Messenger of the King,
right,
and Thorongil and Bjorn?
Right.
Because that's a passive state.
So what you're saying, if somebody is playing, it's a grief move, right? So what you do is if somebody is playing Messenger of the King, ally Bjorn, which is not necessarily a horrible Messenger of the King,
he's got a big stat line.
He's got a great stat. He's got
a
a
big
big
6
stat.
hit points and 3 defense.
Right. So and so the grief move is to play Thorongil on their Bjorn, and then let everything just fall off.
Messenger of the King.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like, so working my way through that, I feel like, because I think there's been a ruling about Bjorn before, because sometimes hero's abilities are blank, right?
Right.
And when he gets blanked from the encounter deck, you can play attachments on him.
Right.
But then when his ability comes back,
they slide off of him.
They slide off because he's now immune to them.
Correct.
So I think you could do it, and then everything would just fall off, which is just kind of funny. But for a second there, I thought maybe it would be okay.
It's funny that the conversation is more about the rules lawyery stuff than it is about how to play. Because I don't know how many other targets there are really for this card, right? Like, where else? I mean, we talked about Eowyn, we talked about the Denethors. I don't think the Denethor is a horrible card to have the 3 resources to start with Leadership Denethor, which is a pretty good start because of the 3 resources, and then to be able to use that to scry the deck. I don't know, that's fine.
No, there's certainly people who you could build around that, and leadership or Lord Denethor's ability. It's sometimes, believe it or not, he ends up not doing anything. Like there are games that I've played where he ended up not doing anything, so I thought he might defend, and then he doesn't.
Right.
And then it's like, well, his action's not wasted. I get to scry the deck for next turn or for a shadow card. Whatever.
And again, I'm gonna point out that it's also really good to have that resource smoothing with the extra, the
icon that they gain.
Yeah, the resource icon that they gain. So when you have Denethor, and then you're gonna play when you start with Leadership Denethor, and then you're gonna play a lore leadership deck. What's the I mean, I know that if you're playing solo, you're fighting for deck space, but I mean, that may help solve a problem there, especially with the Glorfindel version that Grant was talking about earlier. Glorfindel won't, if you're playing a Lore Spirit deck, Glorfindel isn't going to exhaust to quest, and then you can use him to attack and heal. Like, that's all right.
Yeah, that would be one of those decks where it's like, okay, I don't need this ability, but it would be nice. Like, okay, great, you have a backup heal if you want to invest the 3 resources. Right. Is it maybe better spent on a Warden or Aorth or something else? Maybe, but if you're playing like a mono spirit deck, now you have access to healing through that card. So I think we're going to see players do a lot of neat things, and hopefully through our episode have sparked a few ideas.
And I think also we'll see a lot more of these decks running Thorongil, at least for the first little while, because it's a new thing. Ooh, we've got a new toy to play with. Let's see how much we can break it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm gonna circle back around to something I said in the middle of the show. Was I just think it goes really well on some of the Hobbit targets, and with the Bond of Friendship. With that contract coupled with Thorongil and the Hobbits, I mean, I think that's pretty good. I think that you spend 3 to bring out Spirit, or not to bring out on Spirit Frodo. You spend 3 on Spirit Frodo to bring out Leadership Frodo, and I think you're pretty good. So
yeah, I think we named a couple of great targets, and with Messenger of the King, it does really open up. But yeah, we named a few like Legolas, Gimli. I think I'm most excited. I think it'll fit really well into a Dale deck. I mentioned Brand, because you always kind of like Tactics. Brand's abilities is good. I really like it. It's really useful, especially in multiplayer, is when it really shines. And then so now you get the power of the Dale deck and the card draw and the willpower, and you can now really utilize Brand's attack power and give him ranged for 3 resources. I think the problem we'll see is showing up at conventions or doing pickup play for this game has always kind of been it's always challenging, right?
Right. Because
you have unique conflicts. I'm playing Hero Gandalf when you have ally hero,
right,
like
attack Gandalf.
Yeah, I'm playing a Hobbit deck with Mary, but I'm playing a non-Hobbit with Tactics Mary, and I have a non-Hobbit deck that just uses Spirit Mary for his reduction. That happens all the time, and most players show up with a series of decks or heroes that they can substitute, and their decks still function. But Thorongil is just going to be another piece thrown in there. Like, well, now I got Thorongil in my deck.
Right.
And you'll have players have to work that out in those scenarios, but it'll still be really, really fun to see what the community does with it.
Yeah. Grant, what's your... I didn't ask Ted if this was his last gasp, but we'll make that Ted's last gasp. Grant, what's your last gasp on this card?
it's going to be interesting to see how this card affects the current meta of the game. Obviously, with it adding a new element like the contracts did when they were first announced and released, it'll be interesting to see how many people actually run this card and what they actually do with it.
Yeah, I mean, and my take is that while I think that this is a great card in terms of theme, I'm just not sure how much it's going. I think that there's going to be some decks that are run around this card, or that it helps grease the wheels, so to speak. But I'm not sure that this is a super OP card. This gives Aragorn another kind of attachment that's his, so to speak. Because Aragorn, I don't know, because I guess, Aragorn doesn't have a named lore attachment. He's got his horse, he's got his sword, he's got the ring, he's got things that go on him. This doesn't necessarily named go on him, but this is another one of those things that go on to Tower Aragorn and maybe make him pretty good. I don't know. It just seems pretty good. It's kind of like similar to Strider. It's his alias at a different time in his life, and it's great that it's in the card pool, but I'm not sure that this is like an awesome card that's going to be in 10,000 decks by tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because I think for all the reasons we named, where it's not something that starts in play, so that will in a way limit its ability. It's not like a contract,
right?
This itself could be a contract, like
right.
that would make it very playable. Like, oh, you get to sort of start with 2 heroes' abilities with some drawback or something, but
right.
We'll see.
Maybe that was some of the behind the scenes inspiration. They had this 8th contract, Thorongil contract, where you start with 2, and they were like, we don't have room for 8 contracts, so we'll just make it an attachment.
Yeah, but yeah, it's very cool to see. I'm glad it's in the pool.
Yeah, I think it's a great addition to the card pool. So, I guess thumbs up, thumbs down. Ted, what do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yeah, thumbs up. I'm excited to give it a try, and we'll see what it does when it actually hits the table, and then we'll circle back around, and maybe give it a rating once we get some playtime with it.
Yep. Grant, thumbs up, thumbs down. Which one?
Thumbs up. It's a new card, and it'll be interesting to see what other people are able to do with it.
Yeah, and I'm going to give it a tentative thumbs up, but not as strongly as the contract, and not as strongly as Spirit Aragorn. I think that this makes some cards better, but I don't think that this has the wide-ranging impact as those other cards do on the card pool. So,
well, you may have different opinions on Aragorn, so we'll just leave it.
Well, we do. I mean, that show's coming out, or came out as people are listening to this, so they'll know that you don't think that Spirit Aragorn is very good, but I think that Spirit Aragorn is good for. Anyways, this isn't about Spirit Aragorn. Let's close the show.
Check out that episode if you want to listen to it.
Right, check out that episode. So, Spirit Aragorn, just to let you know, is really good with Strider. So, Grey Wanderer, Spirit Aragorn, try it out. Anyways, that's all we have here, guys. And so, thanks for tuning in, and we'll join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Have a great day, everybody.
And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube, where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself, or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.